don't have agency to investigate, and hopefully we find out
Yes.
in whatever the due course. But anyway,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
fascinating, sort of, but only when you know the facts would it really be
Okay.
interesting.
And in my theory, we don't have agency for most of the things that are happening to us now.
We just had a room that was really good yesterday on COVID, and Denise came in, and we had
I was
Susie from.
there.
Yeah. I was gonna just jump the line to do my final thought is that maybe I'll do is it okay, Ben, if I hold this over and do a little after hours, a little reckoning on how we digest news events is important, and like the salation, like we're captured by these
Absolutely.
systems that it could be fascinating to know how this guy was murdered, but back to agency, it's not as
I
important
was
as
just,
COVID.
I know,
I know. It's the gossip hour, I guess.
I
So
was
I
just
wasn't trying to
being
criticize
funny.
it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
not
but
only that, but I want to say that we are going to discuss the state of healthcare tomorrow in Pharmacode.
awesome, awesome. And I also am I'm resettled now, and I'd like to pick up the torch on is Dr. James, yeah, he's still in the room. Some of this financial education, because I had mentioned it. I was in a higher stress environment, and now that things are calming down, I do want to be pretty organized about how do we talk about the differences between personal finance and corporate finance. Like, what does an accountant do? What does a financial advisor do? What should you do for yourself? Like a modern, if you could teach someone who had maybe a pretty good high school education, a modern like personal home economics, to try to be apolitical as possible. But like, how would you go through some research on, you know, basics financial 101, and most people probably can skip the first few checklists, but I want to take case studies and do recipes of real world events, and COVID is a great example of, if we have more of a shared narrative, that it was hard to have one yesterday when someone was being very binary, right? And oh, but you guys were in lockdown and you were forced to take the vaccine, and it was like, no, you got to kind of soften the language and say some people may have been felt, you know at this moment in
Mm.
time, and we didn't know a lot, and it's nuanced. So
David,
personal
do me a
finance is the
favor.
most nuanced thing out
Let's
there.
let's do this. I want to keep this sort of separated. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to close
Anyway,
normal
so we'll
hours,
leave it at
and
that. Personal finance is hard,
yeah. Just
just like
just
politics
open.
is hard, right?
Listen, just open up another room in the house, and we'll send them there, or we can promote it. But
Yeah, yeah. So we can
get it
promote
set
it,
up
and
ahead.
then,
Yeah,
but
go
we
ahead.
can also keep this group of people together to poll them on other topics than personal finance. Like, I don't want to just be so specific, because I thought what came together yesterday was more rare in the post-election time period, where people were not at each other's throats, or it was kept calm enough to start to talk about really kind of important things that before the
Yeah.
election were
No,
turned
it's a
too
good idea.
political.
I just want to keep them all separate. That's all. So like, instead of having it keep go on, it's sort of it's just a way
I
that
got
I
that.
wanted
I,
the
I
format.
respect that. I got you.
Okay. All right. So let's get this thing going. We haven't heard from Rick yet. Rick, closing comments, pearls of wisdom.
Well, Elon Musk's net worth went up $91 billion this month.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
There's a surprise. There's a surprise.
his net worth is more than California's annual budget,
Mm-hmm.
um, by a fair amount.
No, it's obscene.
But we're just going to have to. I was kind of pleased that Trump's nominee for the DEA um, turned it down.
Yeah.
And he turned it down after saying, once I realized the gravity of the job, um, he decided it wasn't for him. And I wish more people would do that. I respect him for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
These are adult jobs. They're not ego jobs. And it seems like we're filling these positions, or Trump wants to fill these positions with ego jobs. And,
Yeah.
let's hope that some of these people, the worst of them, won't get confirmed. But I don't know. I don't know. I really can't make any predictions on what this Senate is going to do. There is some good news. A Democrat flipped a Republican seat in the House. That's the last seat that was available. So Republicans only have a 5-seat majority in the House, and the Senate is really close. So all this talk about mandates, and I don't believe there are mandates, period, after elections. Even if somebody wins by a landslide, I don't think there's. I think mandate is kind of a marketing term, because once you're elected, you're supposed to serve all of the people, not just the people that you voted for you, and that means that you do have to compromise. You do have to make some tough choices that a lot of people who voted for you probably won't like. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm hoping it does, that there are some checks and balances, and this is not just the loyalty pledge to one person. But we'll have to see what happens. It's going to be tough, and we're just going to have to see what happens and what we can do about it. How we can take care of the people that are most in need and they're going to be harmed the most. And that's it. It's going to be a crazy ride here,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a lot more difficult for some people. Every day now when I drive around Ventura County, and I see the people working out in the fields when it is cold out. They're starting at 6 in the morning and they work till 4 in the afternoon. And there's a number of them that are undocumented, and they're scared. I went to a thing the other night with a bunch of Latinos. And some of them are successful business people here in town. Some of them voted for Trump. Many of them voted for Kamala. And they were saying, well, I asked a couple of the ones that voted for Trump. I said, so why? Why did you do that? And they said, well, he says he's said the right stuff. They said, but we're going to hold him accountable to it. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. They said that he was speaking to us like he was going to help us. If he doesn't help us, they're saying the same thing that he's said to Hamas. There will be hell to pay. So it was an interesting conversation to hear that they are going to hold him accountable and not just let him get away with saying stuff and not doing stuff.
Mm.
And I think that has been a problem, frankly, with both parties, is making promises that they can't keep, or that they either won't keep or they can't keep. And I think that one of the things that Americans are really looking for is somebody who's really honest about things. And, saying, I can't do this by myself. And this is going to be hard to do, but this is what I want to do. Instead of saying, this is what I'm going to do, and then not deliver.
And
Well,
Rick,
we got to
do
find.
you,
People are pissed about that.
Rick, do
Yeah,
you
go ahead,
think that,
Andrea.
sorry, Ben, Rick, do you think that, I wouldn't, I don't think it's only, the
Here, why don't we do
politicians.
this? Because Rick, I think Rick pretty much landed. So, Andrea, why don't you do your closing comment, pearls of wisdom.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well, it's not really that. I'm just replying in that I'm not sure this is only a politician issue about, I mean, for sure, having an honest, plain talking person who's going to tell him like it is. Although he appears to be extremely smart and even speaks that way, I felt like, Pete Buttigieg has a bit of that appeal. But Tim Walz had that very straightforward, let me tell you how it is, face. And so maybe we need more of those kinds of candidates. Maybe we need more women. Maybe we need, totally new messaging, like we've said, or a rebrand. But the issue is, I think it's a tricky thing because it's also the electorate. It's also how we vote and what we make decisions on and how informed we are. And the news ecosystem and where people get their information from, because it's nice for them to say they're going to hold him accountable, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't have immunity, I mean, I'm encouraged after South Korea, but he has immunity rather at the moment. And in a
Yeah.
way, we are in a wait and see moment. Not we shouldn't be in a wait and see moment. I keep saying this, that the rails, the guardrails, the institutions, the other non-MAGA senators that aren't kissing the ring or, bowing to King Elon need to be doing their bit to hold the line in civil society. But, it's also, there's something about a culture out there too in the electorate and how decisions are made. And I don't know if it's just coming down to messaging and how people talk to people, but I agree with you that I really feel like Dems need to do a listening tour. I did my own listening tour, not necessarily intentionally, but it happened anyway. And the feedback I got was not the feedback about the people that were worried about. I mean, yes, they are people that were hit by inflation. They are people who voted for Harris but did not want to. They were anti-Trump, and they were very angry at the Democrats that Trump won. And it's a feeling they bring it back to that issue. They weren't talking about the cost of living. They were talking about the fact that Biden didn't step down and hold to
Yeah.
his promise of a one-term presidency, and that there wasn't an open primary. So that's a different set of people. That may not be all the people, and that may not be the people that swung the vote. But I listened. And
Mm-hmm.
I heard it, and I brought it back. And the other one said, I don't like to be made to feel stupid just because I think differently or have a different opinion, and I don't have time to consume political news all day from 6 different channels to make sure that I've had a balanced view. I don't have that kind of time in my day. So there's something that needs to be made easier and actually reach people, but you can't force people to consume information. Anyway, I land it's education system, I guess, but I land it there.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Okay, let's go to Scott, the Reverend Scott. Closing comment, pearls of wisdom.
I'll just leave with this. Victor Willis, the writer of the song YMCA, has
Mm-hmm.
said that he's thrilled that Trump has used it on the campaign trail and that it's not a gay song, which I think well, I guess you have to take the author at their word, but it sure seemed homoerotic to me. But he's thrilled that he's made a real resurgence. The song has made a lot more money for Victor Willis, and he assures all fans like me, I'm a Village People fan. He assures it's a thoroughly heterosexual song. So we
There
all
you go.
snap and do all these things in the locker room listening to it because it is as heterosexual can be. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, the Reverend Scott. That you always bring it down. You distill it down to the most important points. But thank you. That was good. Carranza, are you there?
I am.
Carranza, going
I am.
once, going
I
twice.
am here. Relax.
Closing comment, pearls of wisdom.
Relax. Relax. Are you relaxed?
I'm relaxed.
Good.
I'm
I
very
needed. I
relaxed.
needed to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My closing comments is we didn't talk about it in this room. David and I were talking about it in another room. So the
Yeah.
response, China's response to the banning of shipment of all rare earth minerals, especially for the tech industry in Silicon Valley, is particularly going to hurt tribes because tribes right now sit on 39% of all the rare earth minerals in the United States. So lithium, molybdenum, uranium, niobium, and tantalum. Those are all in tribal territories. So Trump and Project 2025 wants to get rid of tribes anyway. They want to terminate their domestic nation status and just take over the few remaining strongholds of tribal sovereignty that are left. And that's what I'm afraid of. Plus, when they found the $600 billion dollar amount of lithium in Sonora, Mexico, right away the GOP said we're going to invade Mexico for the drug trade. That's not why they're going in there. They're going for lithium. Uh, the
Yeah.
other the other place in Latin America is Brazil, Paraguay, Bolivia. They have a lot of lithium. So this is what I'm afraid of, is that not only is this going to be an economic and trade war, but this is going to be actual war over resources.
There you go. Well, that's disturbing. But you always have a very cogent information, so that's good. All right, thanks, Carranza. Appreciate it, because you do bring a viewpoint that we don't hear often. Steve Appel, closing comment, pearls of wisdom.
Yes, thank you for another great room. FCC Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act states that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider, i.e., whatever we hear, read, or see on Facebook, Instagram, and yes, even Clubhouse, Instagram, and Facebook are not currently liable for what us individuals say, do, or post. Trump has nominated Brendan Carr, who, by
So
the
this is
way,
Rule 23, right?
230,
Section
230,
230.
230, yeah.
Section 230 of
Section
the,
230, yeah.
yes. Trump
Go
has
ahead, sorry.
nominated, and he will be confirmed because he's an FCC commissioner and he is qualified. But he also has, as I said earlier, a couple of pages in Project 2025, and he has already said he's looking to revamp in some way Section 230, and I'll land it here. If we make facilities such as Clubhouse, Instagram, or Facebook liable for our content, my humble opinion, my crystal ball says that Facebook, Instagram, and Clubhouse will start watching very carefully and or censoring what us individuals do. I am against changing 230. I want to leave it exactly where it is. Thank you, Ben.
Great, thanks. That was very informative. Thanks, Steve. All right, we're going to finish off with Dr. James and then Andrew, and then David, you can be the caboose. And then if you want to start the other room, we can do a little segue thing going on. But go ahead, Dr. James.
Yeah, thanks. So, I was thinking about, what are some perhaps completely ridiculous, out of the box other solutions to who gets elected next time? And I'm thinking about on the right, they've done the hack of bringing in people like Reagan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, even Trump, celebrities, people with name recognition. And I'm thinking to myself, what's stopping the left or the Democrats from doing the same? From bringing
Yeah.
in someone that everybody knows and loves, that maybe doesn't have the same political, expertise or finesse, but can be easily molded and puppeted, to some degree, and then to another degree, just get in his, entire team that would also be able to do the good work that they need to do. And so, has that ever happened? Is there precedent for that? And maybe something to think about.
Well, I think the people have been thinking about it. That was sort of the push for Oprah, for one. And, more recently, there was some interest in getting Mark Cuban to come up and run for something. But I think you may be right. It's, we are in we are in a different world, and we have different priorities and social, desires that are different than they were like 50 years ago. So
In
yeah,
the
no, I know
United
it.
States of Idiocracy, the rules have changed. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. No, it's true. You got to do what you can do to get in and win and be able to govern. You can't govern if you don't win elections. So it's a good point. Anyway, thanks, Dr. James. All right, Andrew, and then David. Andrew, closing comment, pearls of wisdom.
Thank you, Ben. The recent visit by Trudeau to Mar-a-Lago,
Oh
it
yeah,
has been reported that Trump was teasing the prime minister and his party that if he didn't like the tariffs, that maybe he would consider becoming a 51st state. Them's fighting words. Them's are fighting words for all Canadians. It's been
right.
like that forever. So I'm really going to be approaching the Prime Minister with probably a plan for a preemptive strike on the United States. I'm trying to figure
I
out
love
where
it.
best to do so. Um, Rochester's across the lake. That's probably fairly, but Detroit's so close, and of course we have the
Yeah,
car business in common, and that would help in regards to any tariffs. And the other one I was thinking was Sault Ste. Marie, which is somewhere in Wisconsin, I believe. But I think Detroit's the best bet there. So anyway,
Michigan.
yeah,
Yeah, no. It's good that you're doing some location scouting. I think it's a good idea. Hey, look, I spent 4 years in Rochester.
I
It's
know
not
that
worth
it's
it.
good, but
There's
it's
nothing
right
there.
across the lake, so you know.
Exactly.
Although we don't have a navy anymore. We did have the third largest navy in the world, World War II, but you know that's a long time ago. Now it's a
That's a whole other
couple
story.
ships and leaky submarine.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. All right, David, you are the caboose. Why don't you give us the thing, and then we'll figure out what to do. Do a
Yeah,
handoff.
yeah. I
Go
mean, if
ahead.
people just want to stay in the room, that's cool. That I mean, that prevents the whole loss
Yeah,
of fifty
I
percent.
just
But
have.
I know you
Yeah,
got
go
your
ahead.
thing. So you got whatever. We've talked about it in the chat that I was seeding it with a Mark Cuban led oligarchy in the White House versus Elon Musk oligarchy. What are the hypothetical views going forward? What pivot could we make? We'll just fantasize. We don't have to be arguing all of yesterday's politics.
Hmm. Okay, there we go.
So join me. I guess I'll open up another room
Yeah,
if you'd
open up
like.
another room. I'm going to do the
I'll do it.
with this the closing
Sure. Let
song,
me do
and
that,
we'll
and then
stay open
while
for
the song's
another.
on, you can put the. Let me
e-
go open it.
Exactly. Let's go do it. All right, everybody. Keep an eye out for David's room, and we will see you tomorrow.